March 1st, 1896. The mountains of northern Ethiopia. 2000. Italian soldiers march toward what they believe will be an easy colonial conquest. They expect scattered resistance. They expect primitive weapons. They expect a quick victory before breakfast. Instead, they find 100,000 Ethiopian warriors waiting in perfect formation. At the center stands Emperor Menelik II, a man who spent a decade preparing for this exact moment. Beside him, Empress Teitu Batul. She mobilized armies. She convinced skeptical regional leaders. Italy believes Ethiopia is just another piece of Africa waiting to be claimed. They have no idea they are walking into the most catastrophic defeat a European power will suffer in Africa. But how did Ethiopia alone defeat a modern European army? What did Menelik know that other African leaders did not? This is the story of the Battle of Adwa, the day Africa proved it could not be broken. To understand Adwa, we go back to Berlin in 1884. European powers draw lines on a map of Africa. No Africans are present. The continent is divided like a cake. Britain takes the east and south. France claims the west. Germany, Belgium, Portugal, Spain all take slices. Italy arrives late to colonialism. Unified only in 1861, the new Italian state wants to prove itself. It wants an empire. It wants prestige. Italy looks at the map. It sees the Horn of Africa. The Italians establish a foothold in Eritrea in 1885. From there they eye the ancient kingdom to the south, Ethiopia. But Ethiopia is different. It has never been colonized. It has an alphabet. It has a Christian church from the 4th century. It has a functioning government. And it has a leader who understands what Europe is doing. That leader is Menelik. Menelik is born in 1844. He grows up in a chaotic period. He is taken hostage for 10 years. This captivity becomes his education. He learns statecraft. He learns military strategy. He learns patience. He escapes in 1865. He returns to Shewa, determined to rebuild his father's kingdom. Over 24 years, he transforms Shewa into the most powerful region in Ethiopia. He modernizes the army. He imports modern rifles, thousands of them. He builds infrastructure, a postal system, a telegraph network. Most importantly, he watches the rest of Africa. He sees kingdoms fall. He studies European tactics. He notices a pattern. African kingdoms fall because they fight alone. They underestimate European technology. They fail to adapt. Menelik decides Ethiopia will not make these mistakes. In 1889, Emperor Johannes IV dies. Menelik claims the imperial throne. He becomes Emperor of Ethiopia. But Menelik knows titles mean nothing if he cannot protect his empire. He needs weapons. He needs diplomatic recognition. He needs time. And that is when Italy makes its move. The Italians see opportunity. A new emperor means potential instability. They approach Menelik with an offer: diplomatic support, modern weapons, financial assistance, all in exchange for a treaty of friendship. On May 2nd, 1889, Menelik signs the Treaty of Wuchala. The treaty is written in 2 languages, Italian and Amharic. Both sides negotiate in good faith, or so it seems. Then there is Article 17. In the Amharic version, Article 17 states the emperor may use Italian diplomacy if he wishes, optional, a courtesy. In the Italian version, it states the emperor will use Italian diplomacy for all communications, mandatory, required. It is a subtle difference with enormous implications. Italy begins telling Europe Ethiopia agreed to become an Italian protectorate, a colony by another name. Menelik does not realize immediately. The treaty brings him rifles, 4,000 of them. It brings recognition, but troubling reports reach his court. Italian newspapers call Ethiopia Italian East Africa. Italian diplomats block Ethiopian representatives. Italian forces push deeper into Ethiopian territory. In 1890, Menelik sends representatives to Rome. The Italians refuse to meet them. They say Ethiopians are subjects of an Italian protectorate. That is when Menelik pulls out both treaty versions. He compares them word by word. The mistranslation is clear. This is not a misunderstanding. This is deliberate deception. Menelik is furious, but he does not show it. He learned patience. He begins a careful diplomatic campaign. He writes letters to European powers. He sends representatives to Britain, France, Russia. He offers compromises. He suggests renegotiations. Italy refuses every offer. Finally, on February 12, 1893, Menelik sends a letter to Italian King Umberto. The message is clear. The Treaty of Wuchale is null and void. Ethiopia will not be an Italian protectorate. Ethiopia will not submit. In Rome, Italian politicians are divided. Some recognize Ethiopia is not a typical target, but others see only opportunity and wounded pride. Prime Minister Francesco Crispi is a hardline nationalist. He believes Italy needs a foreign victory. He believes the military assessment. Ethiopian armies are outdated. They lack modern artillery. Italian troops have modern rifles, machine guns, artillery. On paper, Italy should win easily. Crispi authorizes the military buildup. Throughout 1894 and 1895, Italy pours resources into Eritrea. They ship thousands of troops. They build supply depots. The Italian commander is General Oreste Baratieri, a veteran colonial officer. He is confident. He deeply underestimates his opponent. Baratieri pushes Italian forces south into Ethiopia. He captures border forts. Each advance is a test. He expects Ethiopian resistance to crumble. Instead, he finds coordinated defense. Ethiopian forces retreat strategically. They harass Italian supply lines. Menelik watches these provocations. He knows Italy wants him to react hastily, so he waits. And while he waits, he prepares. Menelik understands something fundamental. Defeating a European army requires more than bravery. It requires organization, unity, logistics, intelligence, and timing. First, he needs modern weapons. He exploits European rivalries brilliantly. He buys rifles from France. He buys artillery from Russia. He gets ammunition from Swiss and Belgian dealers. By 1895, Ethiopia has stockpiled approximately 100,000 modern rifles. It is an enormous arsenal. But weapons alone will not win the war. Menelik needs unity. Ethiopia is a federation of regions. Regional lords called Ras have their own armies. They often compete for power. Menelik begins a patient diplomatic campaign. He sends messengers to every major Ras. He explains the threat. Italy poses to Ethiopian independence itself. He appeals to national pride. He appeals to religious identity. He makes political deals. Some Ras join immediately. Others hesitate. A few resist. That is when Empress Taytu enters the story with force. Taytu is not simply the emperor's wife. She is a political force. Educated, politically astute, deeply ambitious. She distrusts all European powers. She believes Ethiopia must resist with absolute determination. When the crisis escalates, Taytu becomes a strong voice for war. She does not just argue. She takes action. She travels to regions where Ras are hesitating. She uses her family connections. She convinces skeptical leaders. She organizes supply chains. She coordinates logistics. When forces mobilize in late 1895, Taytu personally leads a significant force from Addis Ababa. European observers struggle to understand her role. Victorian norms cannot comprehend a woman wielding such power. Taytu will prove essential. In September 1895, Menelik issues a national call to arms. The message spreads across Ethiopia. What follows is one of the largest military mobilizations in African history. From Shewa come tens of thousands. From Tigray, Ras Alula brings battle-hardened veterans. From Gojam, Ras Tekle Haymanot. From Wollo, Ras Mikael. Conservative estimates put the total force at around 1,000 warriors. Coordinating such a force is a staggering achievement. By December 1895, Ethiopian forces concentrate in the north. Meanwhile, General Baratieri is growing concerned. Italian intelligence reports the massive Ethiopian buildup. Baratieri realizes this is a national mobilization. But he faces problems. His forces are stretched thin. Supply lines are long. His troops are demoralized. Political pressure from Rome is mounting. Prime Minister Crispi demands action. Italian newspapers criticize Baratieri for caution. The public expects a quick victory. Baratieri wants to wait. He hopes Ethiopian logistics will collapse. Feeding 100,000 men is difficult, but time is running out. In December 1895, Menelik takes the initiative. The first major engagement is at Amba Alagi, a strategic mountain fortress. Ethiopian forces surround the Italian garrison. The Italians hold out for weeks. Finally, on December 7th, the garrison surrenders. Over 2,000 Italian and Eritrean troops become prisoners. It is a shocking defeat for Italy. European armies do not surrender to African forces. The news causes panic in Rome. In mid-January 1896, Ethiopian forces attack Mekelle, another fortified town. The siege lasts 2 weeks. Ethiopian forces cut off water supplies. They bombard Italian positions with Russian artillery. The Italian garrison holds out desperately. Baratieri tries to break the siege. He cannot reach Mekelle in time. On January 21st, the Italian commander negotiates a surrender. This time, Menelik makes a calculated decision. He allows the Italians to retreat to Eritrea, but they must leave all weapons and equipment behind. It is a brilliant psychological move. Defeated Italian soldiers return to Eritrea. They spread demoralization. They tell stories of massive Ethiopian armies. Baratieri's position becomes untenable. Then on February 8, 1896, he receives a telegram from Prime Minister Crispi. The message is brief and brutal. Win a decisive victory immediately or you will be replaced. Baratieri understands. His career is at stake. He must attack and he must win. Baratieri decides on a plan. He will advance south with his entire force, approximately 2,000 troops. He will seek decisive battle. He will use superior Italian firepower to break Ethiopian resistance. On February 29, 1896, Italian forces begin marching south at night. They head toward the town of Adwa. Baratieri divides his force into 4 columns. Each follows separate mountain paths. They should converge near Adwa at dawn. It is an ambitious plan. It requires precise coordination in difficult terrain. Baratieri makes a critical mistake. His maps are inaccurate. The mountain passes are poorly surveyed. Ethiopian scouts have been watching for weeks. They understand the terrain perfectly. Menelik knows the Italians are coming. Instead of being surprised, Menelik is ready. He positions his forces across the hills and valleys, surrounding Adwa, a massive crescent formation. Ethiopian armies occupy high ground. As dawn breaks on March 1st, the Italian columns are scattered. They are tired and strung out, and then they see what is waiting for them. Across the hills stand Ethiopian forces as far as the eye can see. Tens of thousands of warriors, artillery on high ground, cavalry ready. The Italian officers experience a moment of terrible realization. They have walked into a prepared defensive position, a force that outnumbers them 5-1. It is too late to retreat. The battle has already begun. The first shots ring out. Around 5:30 a.m., the 4 Italian columns fight separate battles. Communication is impossible. General Vittorio da Bormida's column on the Italian right marches into a valley, surrounded by Ethiopian forces. They are caught in a devastating crossfire. By 10 a.m., da Bormida's brigade is annihilated. The general is killed. In the center, General Matteo Albertoni's brigade runs into the main Ethiopian position. Veterans under Ras Alula, Ethiopian artillery opens fire. The Italians are shocked by effective artillery fire. Albertoni's brigade takes heavy casualties. Ethiopian cavalry charges into disorganized Italian units. The fighting becomes hand-to-hand. By 8 a.m., the Italian center collapses. General Albertoni is captured. General Giuseppe Arimondi's brigade fights desperately. Empress Tatu is personally in this sector, coordinating supply lines and rallying troops. Italian artillery checks Ethiopian advances briefly, but ammunition runs low. Around 11 a.m., Ethiopian forces charge from multiple directions. The Italian line breaks. General Arimondi is killed. Only General Giuseppe Elena's column remains intact. Seeing the disaster, Elena orders an immediate retreat. By noon, the Battle of Adwa is over. The Italian army is shattered. Thousands are dead or dying. Thousands more are captured. Survivors flee in complete disorder back toward Eritrea. Baratieri's career is over. His army is destroyed. Italy's colonial ambitions are crushed. The immediate aftermath is chaos. Ethiopian casualties are heavy. Between 7,000 and 10,000 killed and wounded. Italian casualties are catastrophic. Approximately 6,000 dead, 1,500 wounded. Nearly 3,000 captured. Menelik faces a crisis. What to do with thousands of prisoners? He makes a strategic decision. He will treat them humanely. He knows the world is watching. European powers wait to see if Ethiopia will commit atrocities. Menelik will not give them that excuse. Italian prisoners are treated relatively well. They receive food and medical care. But Eritrean soldiers who fought for Italy are treated harshly as traitors. This distinction is important to Menelik. News of the defeat spreads across the world. The reaction in Europe is disbelief. Surely African forces could not defeat a modern European army. But the truth becomes undeniable. In Italy, the government falls. Prime Minister Crispi resigns in disgrace. There are riots. King Umberto faces criticism. In other European capitals, the response is complex. Britain and France are privately pleased. Less competition in Africa. Germany views Adwa as a lesson. Russia celebrates openly. But the most profound reactions happen outside Europe, in colonized territories across Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. Adwa proves something revolutionary. European military superiority is not inevitable. Colored soldiers can defeat white armies. In Haiti, newspapers celebrate. In India, nationalist leaders study the battle. In the African diaspora, communities celebrate. Ethiopia becomes a symbol of resistance. With his army shattered, Baratieri accepts Ethiopian terms. The Treaty of Addis Ababa is signed on October 26, 1896. It is a complete Ethiopian victory. Italy formally recognizes Ethiopian sovereignty and independence. Italy abandons all claims to Ethiopian territory. For the first time in the modern colonial era, an African nation forces a European power to recognize its independence. Through military victory, Menelik now consolidates Ethiopia's position. He establishes formal diplomatic relations. He invites foreign investment on Ethiopian terms. He builds a railway. He establishes modern schools. He reorganizes the army. Empress Tatu continues playing a significant role. But Menelik's health declines in the early 1900s. He suffers strokes. He dies in 1913, Tatu. Dies in 1918. The memory of Adwa haunts Italy for decades. In 1935, Benito Mussolini invades Ethiopia with modern tanks, aircraft, and poison gas. Ethiopia is occupied for 5 years. But in 1941, with British support and Ethiopian resistance, Emperor Haile Selassie returns. Ethiopia regains its independence. So Italy gets 5 years of revenge, but Ethiopia gets the final word. Today, Ethiopia remains independent, the only African nation never successfully colonized. Adwa is celebrated not just as a military victory, but as the moment that secured sovereignty. Its legacy is everywhere, in the green, yellow, and red of African flags, in the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, in the spirit of resistance across the globe. Adwa proves that history is made by human choices. When Africans unified, when leadership was strategic, when preparation met courage, colonialism could be defeated. That is not a comfortable conclusion for those who prefer inevitable historical narratives, but it is true. Adwa happened. Ethiopia won. independence was preserved, and that victory changed the world. Remember Adwa, remember that resistance matters. Remember that unity is strength, and remember that history belongs to those brave enough to make it.